All right, everyone, welcome to the Mangalorian. I hope you're having a great day today. We are going to dig into the original Dragon Ball manga, volume 28. Last time we were here, we finished off volume 27, which featured Goku defeating Frieza and putting an end to the Frieza arc. All of the dead heroes got wished back. The Namekians went back to their home world. Everything seems to have been wrapped up, but at the very end of the chapter, we found out that Frieza's alive and that he is coming to Earth and he's not alone. So that once again just further cements the fact that Toriyama was never intending on ending this arc in the Frieza saga on ending Dragon Ball at the Frieza saga because it literally goes right to the arrival of Frieza on Earth, which is the beginning of the next story arc, which is the beginning of the Android/Cell saga. Jordan, what's up, man?
Not much. It seems like Dragon Ball does that a lot where they set up what looks like could be a perfect ending. I do think that's one of like Toriyama's strengths. Like I think a lot of reason that people assume that a lot of these endings could be actual endings is because they could be, even though they weren't. Dragon Ball was so unbelievably popular at the time. I don't know why people want to assume that they would end it, especially at that time.
It's because they hear it from somebody and they think it's true. Hey,
Right.
did you know that Toriyama was originally going to end the series, but instead changed his mind? And the problem is that none of that's true. Like, there's no
Right.
evidence to that. I've debunked that forever ago. But people hear it, and then what do? They spread to the next person, and the next person, and the next person, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, they make a meme about it, and so people they believe it because it's on a meme.
Yeah, they believe it because they read it on the internet without, checking to see if anybody who's actually credible said it. So what we're doing today, like I said, we're digging into the 28th volume of Dragon Ball. We're going to be talking all about where this part of the series was borrowed from. Is it true you're wearing a Terminator jacket?
I wouldn't call it a Terminator jacket, but it's leather. I mean,
Okay, well there are leather jackets in that
yeah,
in
his
that
his is leather, but his is like an old school greasy eighter, like a greaser 80s
greaser.
style jacket.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
50s greasers.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I brought back the Red Ribbon Army hat for this series of streams because we're going to be talking about the return of the Red Ribbon Army and the consequences behind Goku's actions. We talk a lot about how Goku's decisions can sometimes bite them in the ass, but ultimately ends up being a positive resolution. We
Yeah,
also need to discuss the fact that a lot of times Goku's existence causes problems, and which is why at the end of this arc, he makes the decision that he made. And here with this story, Frieza coming to Earth, the reality is, had Frieza and Goku never met, Frieza would have no reason to go to Earth and to threaten to destroy it. So Goku almost brought that problem, without meaning to, of course, to Earth.
I think it's all about perception at the end of the day. Like you could make that argument that yeah, Goku's the reason that Frieza got there, but he's also the reason that Frieza just hasn't blown it up. Period. Because every time he looks at Earth, he's like, I can't blow that up until I rectify my fight with Goku. So Goku's the grudge that Frieza has against Goku prevents Frieza from destroying Earth. So it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah, but he would never have even gone to Earth had it not been for Goku. That's the point I'm
Right.
trying to make.
Yeah.
And the Red Ribbon Army's surviving guy making androids, that would not have happened had it not been for Goku.
That's
So
true.
this story arc, I think Toriyama was telling us that even though Goku's done a lot of good, like, you know, there there are people who are not happy with what he's done, who
Yeah.
want revenge. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm
This
saying.
entire arc
Mhm.
highlights the flaws in almost every single character, actually. Like,
Oh, that's true. That's a
yeah,
fact.
like that's kind of the entire point of this arc, I think, is Toriyama really wanted to like highlight everybody's flaws. and the fact that they aren't as good people as you think that they actually are. As a matter of fact, I'll never forget this, man. I read this interview between Toyotaro and Toriyama, and Toriyama said that the people from Dragon Ball aren't necessarily good people; they just appear as good people. And I remember Toyotaro was so disturbed by that because he loves these characters so much. So to think that like Toriyama himself didn't see them as the greatest people ever, it was very disturbing to him. But I think that he highlights that in this arc. I think they are good people in some sense, but in other ways they do things that are questionable, and that's something that he highlights in this arc.
Yeah, and oftentimes as a reader, you're like, why would you do that? You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And that's kind of been like a thing that happened a lot.
Yeah.
So Cool Breezy says, I've always wondered who was actually stronger between Cold and Frieza when they first arrived to Earth. Well, I have some good news for you today, brother. Open up a separate tab, go to my channel, go to the search bar and type in how strong is King Cold, and you will get your answer in as
Yeah, and they
much
actually tell you, they
detail.
straight up tell you in the manga too.
Well,
Like,
no, but that's the thing. The anime actually says something somewhat different. That's why I told him
right.
to watch that video, because there's actually been debated points on that. But I put that video out like in 2016. That's an oldie, but it still
Yeah.
fits. You know, like
Yep.
it still fits. All right, so let's go ahead and keep going. So Gohan and the others already sense his incredible power. They're all going to go meet up. There's Frieza's ship. Here we have Vegeta showing up there. Now, again, if you've seen the anime, you kind of know all this, and you know the events that are going to happen. Also, the anime added the Garlic Jr. saga as well as the episode with Gohan and the teacher, which is what really started the arc in the anime version. But in the manga version, it's just crap. Frieza's here. We got to see what we got to do about that. So Frieza's forces there, Piccolo's there. Pretty much everybody's there. Everybody's there except for hold on, sorry about that. Except for Goku, because he
Yep.
still hasn't arrived on Earth. So it's been a year. It's been about a year since the Namekians left, and he still has not arrived on Earth. We don't know anything about Planet Yardrat yet. Goku explains that when he gets there, but we know as fans of the series that's where he was at. And they're over here like, well, without Goku, what are we going to do? And here we have all of the major players, Chaozu, Tenshin Han. Here comes the ship. You know,
Yeah,
I love the
this moves unbelievably fast in comparison to the anime. Like this is like I remember when I was watching this in like anime form, this was very dragged out. Like very, very, very dragged out.
conversations were a lot longer too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually love the reaction shots here. How Toriyama draws like all their reactions, like great now. And remember, Frieza, Gohan, Krillin, and Vegeta have all felt Frieza's power. Did I say Frieza, Gohan? I meant Krillin, Gohan, Piccolo, Vegeta have all
Yeah.
felt Frieza's power. Yamcha, Tenshinhan, Chaozu have not. Bulma was there, but she really doesn't sense the power.
Right.
So they're all freaked out, and they're pretty much saying we have to go on. Vegeta's saying we have to go on foot. Keep your energy low because they're going to have scouters. Because remember, these other guys like Yamcha, they saw some of what happened on Planet Namek, but they weren't there. So Vegeta has to remind them, like, hey, like, dude, lower your energy. They have scouters.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, so here comes Frieza. He's landed, you know, first time ever. What do you think about Frieza's Mecha Frieza form? What are your thoughts on that version of
There's
Frieza?
quite a few things that I like about it. The first thing that I like about it is that it's an obvious callback to what happened
Tao?
with Tao. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I've always really loved that aspect of this. It's also got like a Darth Vader like thing to it as well. But
Machine and
overall,
Man.
I remember like back whenever I was playing like the old school PlayStation Dragon Ball games. For some reason, I always had this perception that Frieza, like Mecha Frieza, was the strongest and therefore the coolest, you know. So I've always kind of had like an appreciation for Mecha Frieza, and I like his design. I like how Toriyama like designed him. Although the technology doesn't necessarily look super complex that they use to fix him or whatever. I like it. I think it's cool. I just think it's kind of I don't know. He does look a little bit odd. I guess I could say that, but I still like the design. You know, I think
it's
the like
repairing him from his injuries in the fight with Goku.
yeah, the Namekian looking like things that he has on his arms, or you know, it's just like I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah, it's a common Toriyama thing. We even Dragon Quest characters have stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the thing too is the anime version. This is one of those anime versus manga type of conversations, but in the anime, they actually spent some time showing what happened to Frieza, like King Cold fighting his body in the vacuum of space. Like
Yeah.
how they put him back together.
Yeah, I
We
remember all
can
that.
rebuild him. Yeah, that was all in the anime. And to me, that's another example of good filler.
Yeah.
And anime fans, I think people were like traumatized by Naruto or something, but a lot of anime fans seem to have this idea that all filler is bad, and that was never the case when I first became an anime fan. Like that's why I think that like some of the younger anime fans who maybe experience Naruto or other shows think that all filler is automatically bad, and that's just not true. I actually really like the filler of Cold finding Frieza's body.
Yeah, and one more thing about the Mecha Frieza thing, whenever, and this has to do with the video games. I always imagine whenever I was playing as him that his hands and his feet and his tail and everything were sharper, and therefore he was more dangerous.
I
So
think you're right.
yeah, so I always that's another thing that I always liked about that design, especially if you get to see it from like a 3D perspective, is they always highlight how sharp his fingers are and his feet and his tail, and it makes him seem like more deadly, you know, because he was a smooth skinned alien before. So
Yeah. Bindle says a lot of people are manga elitist adaptations have to be 1-1 or it's bad. He's not wrong. I mean, there are people like that. There
yeah,
are manga purists out there. I think he's right about that. It's just the issue is that it doesn't just mean that quality wise it's bad. You know, that's all I'm saying.
my only issue with filler has ever been when they just completely either misunderstand Toriyama's intentions or they, you know, basically just like create further contradictions. Other than that,
That's
like I'm,
one.
yeah, other than that, I've always been a fan of filler.
Well, when they drag stuff out like Bulma and Ginyu Frog, like that's never been my favorite,
Right.
you know. So Justin says, yeah, Krillin would know Frieza's coming. When a man has been inside you, you know when he's coming. Well, I wouldn't know that feeling, Justin. Maybe you would, but I would not know that feeling, brother.
You kind
But
of set yourself up there.
he kind of did set himself up, but he's right in that the horn. He's talking about the horn impalement, is what he's talking about.
Right. I
Yeehaw, ride 'em, cowboy.
know.
This is wrong information. Mecha Frieza is not weaker than 100% Frieza. That is false information. Again, I've done videos on it. I'm not going to get into it. He's just not. So now the whole thing is King Cold is there with Frieza to really get the jump on Goku. To you know, and right here, Frieza even says, if the two of us work together, we're sure to defeat him, Papa. You know, so, but now that I've powered up, I could barely take care of him I could likely take care of him by
Yeah, they
myself.
literally tell you right there, Mecha Frieza is
Okay.
stronger. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, motherfucker, Mecha Frieza is weaker than 100% Frieza, right? But now that I've powered up, I could likely take care of him myself. I mean, bro. Anyways, moving on. Here we have the arrival of the mysterious youth with the cool looking shoes and set of pants. And chapter 331, the young man of mystery, the mysterious youth. And everyone there doesn't know what's going on. Here's the feat. Was there something you need, Earthling? And then they just show like the slow pan up. I'm here to kill you two. Now,
10 out of 10 fit.
Yes. Now, in the anime version, what Trunks says is, I came to kill you all. Right? In the dub, they changed it to, so you must be Frieza. So what sounds cooler? I came to kill you all, or you must be Frieza?
Right.
But they defend it, bro. My nostalgia. I was in 8th grade. It was a great time in my life. I didn't have to pay bills. So here is the shit talk that goes back from, back and forth. And here Trunks straight up says, he's like, I'm far from ignorant. You are Frieza, aren't you? And he's like, oh, I'm honored. Like, Frieza's whole thing is he thinks that, look at that typo right there. He thinks that the fact that people know him on this side of the universe,
it's flattering.
It's like, yeah, it's flattering, not knowing anything about the kid's history or who he is or any of that shit.
He's like, man, I'm popular. Yeah.
Now, this is kind of an interesting sort of milestone here. When this fish guy scans the power of Trunks, he gets battle power of 5. That's actually the final official recorded power level in the manga. After this power level reading, the scouters are no longer in play anymore, and we don't even see Frieza's forces again until Resurrection F. So,
right,
power levels are done after this.
Yeah, good riddance.
Yeah, Toriyama. I discussed this in a video I did years ago. Toriyama felt that the numerical power level thing was a storytelling device that was used just so people can say, oh, he's not that strong, when actually they are that strong. And so that's why, he sort of at this point said, we don't need this anymore. Like, it's not even necessary anymore.
Right.
It's not even needed. So I love this right here. He fires a blast at Trunks. Trunks deflects it, quickly moves in, and elbows the shit out of this guy, sending him flying back into a rock. Here come the rest of the goons. Trunks pulls out his sword and slices these guys to pieces.
Man, when I first saw this, I freaked out so hard. I was like, this is insane, bro. Like, honestly, for a little while, this scene right here probably had just as big an impact on me as Goku going Super Saiyan, for real.
Do you think this is the best first appearance for a Dragon Ball character?
Probably, yeah. Actually, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
I think I do too.
Now, that might be the nostalgia talking, but I just remember very distinctly, whenever Trunks showed up, I was like, oh my god, who is this guy? He's so cool. He's got a sword. And then whenever he turned into a Super Saiyan, I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, it was just a mind blow. It was just crazy. When you don't know what's experience as a kid for the first time, without any context at all, prior to the era of the internet and stuff like that, it was a really insane thing to experience with no context at all.
Yeah, when you don't know what's coming, it's a lot more fun, and it's also a thing where it's I watched Dragon Ball with a couple people who have never seen it before, and it's always like they love it, but they start asking questions because they just thought that Goku was the only one. We'll get to that here in just a minute. So everybody senses that this guy just straight up smashed these dudes, and they know something's going on. They're like, all these keys vanished. And in the meantime, now Trunks is like, well, now you fight me, right? And then they're talking shit, and Trunks has some of the best lines here. You'll be dead faster than you can even blink. I'm certain of it. Bro, what a shit talking. Remember, and then when I did the Dragon Ball Unseen, I had that line where Goku says it takes some balls to come to Earth half dead in a tin suit. Because in the anime lab sub of this episode of the anime, they put that line in there. It's not in the episode, but it was supposed to be an Easter egg that like 2 people got. Which Goku would never say that. Yeah, that's the point. But whatever. So Trunks basically tells him, I'm not going to be as easy on you as Goku was, so you might as well come at me with everything. And now Frieza assumes that Trunks is his friend and so on and so forth. And this is when Trunks says, Son Goku was the only Super Saiyan. There is another standing right in front of you. What? And then he starts to have a meltdown. King Cold is like, so this is a Super Saiyan. Trunks powers up. In the anime version, they play Battle Point Infinity, and it's amazing. It's one of the coolest scenes ever. And now Frieza is now dealing with another golden-haired problem.
And I love the way that Trunks' hair looks as a Super Saiyan 2. I always thought it was very distinct in comparison to a lot of the other Super Saiyan forms.
Because he's got like the bowl cut or whatever it is, but it goes up backwards.
Yeah.
Xavier says, I know it would have been dragged out, but I do wish we saw the Z Fighters versus Frieza Force here, and we see Trunks versus Frieza and Goku versus Cold. Yeah, that would have been like another way to tell the story, because Frieza and Cold would have probably tried to hurt Goku's friends in that. Maybe to hold them up for ransom or something like that. So I don't know if their friends would have been safe. But you're talking about it.
You could do that in the anime, maybe. You could pull that off in an anime form, but I feel like that would jar up the pacing so much in a manga that you couldn't really pull it off. Because you'd have to include action scenes for every individual character, including like, the side characters who are fighting the grunts and stuff like that. Not that it wouldn't be cool, but I do think that it would make the pacing way slower in manga format. So I can kind of see why Toriyama didn't do it. And honestly, it's kind of unnecessary if Trunks is really that strong. So I think this kind of like helps sell the idea that Trunks is unstoppable as well,
Somebody in the chat is asking how strong is King Cold. Can somebody please like send him what I said earlier about that? Obviously, he showed up late. We already went over all that.
Go check out How Strong is King Cold on Danny's channel, Geekdom 101.
Yeah, which is this channel. But yeah, I mean, Xavier's method would have been more like a final battle than a first battle. Justin then says, McFly over here definitely knows how to make a great first impression. That's right. And of course, he's McFly because he's a time traveler. So
right.
And then John Uhis, sorry if I butchered your last name, said, I really feel like Daima would be a perfect segue. You misspelled that, but that's okay. To canonize Tapion and Trunks getting his sword. Also, thanks for all the years of content. Well, I don't understand how. Okay, wait. I don't understand how Daima.
This is gonna open up a whole can of worms.
No, wait. I don't understand what Daima has anything to do with Tapion or Trunks. Trunks is not involved in Daima. Tapion's not involved in Daima. I do not understand the connection.
I think it's because Tapion has pointy ears. I think that's what he's thinking.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, I think that's what he's thinking. But the thing is that the Trunks that we see in our timeline never gets a sword. Like, this Trunks got a sword, but the events that happen in this timeline are not the same as the other timeline. So even if Tapion gave this Trunks a sword, it wouldn't feed into how this Trunks got his sword at all, because they're two separate timelines. So I know people like the idea of like the modern Trunks, like the Trunks that we see now, that we're getting ready to see in the Super manga, with the Kling God stuff. I understand like people would like to see him with a sword, but it's just not the same Trunks.
I don't understand how many people are actually confused by that. It actually makes me sad and somewhat depressed, because when I was a kid and I saw the Hirudegarn movie and I saw Tapion give Trunks his sword, then they happen to show scenes of this Trunks, like these scenes right here. And people, without even thinking for just 1 second, were like, oh, that's how Trunks got his sword, when it's not the same Trunks. As a freaking 12-year-old, I knew it wasn't the same Trunks. But yet here we have grown-ups who just, it's one of those things that just depresses me, because it's the simplest of logic, and yet so many people don't get it. And it just makes me wonder if people are just getting dumber or what, you know?
Yeah. Well, so a lot of people are just casuals, and they see young Trunks and they assume that he's the same. You know, it's just they don't.
Right, but they're not all casuals. But yeah, like they're definitely more casual than somebody who pays attention.
Right.
You know? So that's the thing. Like it's a weird thing to think. So anyways, he says, now go to hell. They're all freaking out. They sense the power. The only one going to hell is you. Fires at Trunks, thinks he got him. Anime version's much longer. He misses, and then Trunks is up on this little plateau right here. He does his awesome, wacky hand movement here. And it's just funny because
burning attack, yeah. He's trying to figure out what he's trying to figure out. Toriyama's trying to figure out how he's going to make this technique unique in comparison to like the Kamehameha and the Gallic Gun and everything else that he's done. This to me is like some Sentai stuff. I know a lot of people probably haven't thought about it that way, but
all right, I guess.
Yeah,
wait,
you know,
can you hear me? Oh, there you
go. Yeah, you know.
I'm sorry, I thought I lost you there.
No, you know, they do this kind of stuff all the time when they're getting ready to either use like their weapons in like in Sentai shows and stuff like that. They'll just do these random hand gestures and movements, you know, and that's what this reminds me of. It reminds me of that type of thing.
Right. And then he yells, hey, Frieza. Frieza looks, fires the blast, which is all done to distract him. Frieza then jumps out of the way, then turns around and sees Trunks coming in. Whoa, hold on. This is a big image. Takes up the entire screen, literally. And here he is with the big slice right in half. This was so shocking. You know, I've told the story before, but I got my hands on these episodes fan subbed all the way back in like the 90s, before it even aired on Toonami. And I brought this into school, and I had to skip class because everybody wanted to watch it, because they were so like completely drawn into like these episodes that we wouldn't even get for another year, like 2 years maybe. I think it was 2 years. We didn't get those episodes. And everybody was just.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
No, I was just saying that I've told that story before, that in those days, nobody fucking bitched about Nozawa's voice. Nobody bitched about the subtitles. We were all literally 13, 14 years old, loving this shit, not giving a fuck about like what language it was. It was just so fresh and so new. Yeah. Then of course I go on the internet and I see dub fans, a different generation, who just shit on Nozawa, and it's like,
yeah. What I started to say is, I actually have there's actually a Journey to the West reference associated with Trunks cutting Frieza in half here. So
is there really, okay?
Yeah. So it's funny because in Journey to the West, there's a demon who straight up kidnaps Sun Wukong's entire race and uses them as slaves. He's literally like just like Frieza. Like, he literally takes all of the monkeys that Sun Wukong left behind, and he enslaves them and basically like uses them as his personal army. It's literally verbatim the exact same thing as Frieza. It's the exact same thing. But so when Sun Wukong comes back from learning how to use his chi as a weapon from his master, he's got like these godly powers, and he shows up. And he ends up killing the demon is he takes the demon's sword from him and cuts him in half.
I didn't know that. That's pretty awesome.
So this is very clearly a direct reference to that. Even like whenever King Cold like takes the sword from Trunks, that's kind of like a role reversal in a way, because that's kind of what Sun Wukong does with the demon. He's like, let me check out your sword. And then he just like cuts him in half. It's awesome.
It's all just total badassery. In fact, I think this is probably Trunks' most badass moment. Like, even to this day, I don't think Trunks ever was able to top this. He's had a few cool ones, don't get me wrong, but this is like tippy top for him.
Yeah.
Chapter 332, the second Super Saiyan. Now, let me get these last couple super chats that we have in the queue. If you have more, send them in. Justin says, damn, Frieza just got split down the middle. I wonder if Frieza will share a room in hell with Tambourine or O.J. Simpson. Well, Frieza got there before O.J. Simpson, but I don't think O.J. was in the flower fields. So, I don't know, but I gotcha. Hugo Weedy says, or Welty says, I'm undecided whether this arc or the Saiyan Saga have the strongest opening act. What is you guys' thoughts? That's a good question, actually. What do you think?
I think the Saiyan Saga. Okay, if you're new to the series, I think the Saiyan Saga has a bigger opening. But if you're like rewatching it, I think this series this part of the series has a stronger opening because, this moves so quickly, and this stuff with Trunks being introduced and turning to a Super Saiyan right away and blowing Frieza away. It's just so fast and gratifying. It's just satisfying overall. Whereas like the pacing in the Saiyan Saga is slow, but if you're new to all that information, it works better because it's slow. So I think that's kind of the difference. Like if I was new to the series, I definitely think the Saiyan Saga would grab my attention more early on than this would. But if you're somebody who's rewatched the series multiple times, this always like will grab your attention every single time. So
it's just interesting because the Saiyan Saga opening with Raditz appearing and revealing that Goku is an alien, that changed the entire perspective of the series. We have talked about that. We've talked about that. And it just changed the complexion of the series. Whereas this also did, but not as much. But overall coolness, when it comes to coolness, I would probably say this one's just more badass, but that's only on the badass scale. Hold on a minute. Okay. Masako Nozawa's 88. She does need to retire. First of all, who are you to tell that woman she needs to retire, dog? Like, why? Because she's old,
extremely talented. She's doing a great job. I don't know.
She's doing a great job still on Daima. She doesn't sound like the voice of Marge Simpson where her voice is dead. Like, why are you saying she needs to retire, dude? Like you need to.
It makes her happy.
Why would you? Yeah, why would you tell her to? She likes to do it, bro. Why would you tell her not to do it? I don't care if she's 150. Like, let her do it if she wants to do it.
Right.
I don't want to be working till I'm 80, but I'm not her. So we're different.
Well, she did an interview not long ago that
she wanted to voice that she's 150, I think, or something.
Well, not just that she said that, but like she also said that like during the Tournament of Power era, she got to go take some of the Tournament of Power footage and show it to a kid who had cancer. And she said that like her playing Goku has just been like a blessing. Like she considers it like an actual blessing. Like she can achieve things in her life and make people happy in a way that she like never imagined possible. So like just playing Goku and having that status makes her happy, and and people love that about her. So
here's another one. Not only that, but I don't know her income exactly, but yen is lower than American bucks.
God. Do we have any more super chats?
Let me not even address this because this guy, dude, you really need to go outside and look at like other cultures and look at how things are and look at what exchange rates are. Instead of saying yen, like listen to what you just said. You just said yen is less than American bucks. You really need to look at like exchange rates, because I figured this out when I was a kid. Please don't tell me you're another one of those grown men that you have trouble understanding basic concepts. Like, I don't, it's just wild to me, bro. Let's get back to these super chats, though. RPT said, do you think Super Saiyan also draws inspiration from Asuras, the flaming head on them? What do you think about that? That's for Jordan.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure you played Asura's Wrath, the video game. Asuras are like destroyer gods, kind of. And Sun Wukong was very, very similar to an Asura. He actually like took on the traits of an Asura in the book quite a few times. They're essentially called wrathful destroyers. They're like the equivalent of the gods of destruction in Dragon Ball Super. Yeah, I definitely think that there's a connection there for sure.
Yeah. All right. Dustin Doosty, not Dustin, Doosty York says, you think Arinsu visited Earth in Trunks' timeline? No, I'm already telling you no. And what do you think happened with the Demon Realm since Dabura died, but Majin Buu wasn't revived? That part is a good question. I don't know exactly what happened. Right. I don't know exactly what happened, but the logic behind the question makes sense. Obviously, there is no Majin Buu arc, which means that when Dabura was killed by Trunks, either Goma went to Earth. I mean, I don't think Goma went to Earth to wish for Trunks to become a kid again. I don't think that happened. But it sounds like what probably happened is he just took over the Demon Realm and didn't even bother with Trunks.
Well, why would
That's
he?
my guess.
Why would he? Why would he if shortly after Black showed up and demolished the mortal realm anyway? You know what I mean? Actually, to me, that just adds like a whole nother layer to that arc. Because if Dragon Ball Daima is centered around the Glend, and then a corrupted Glend was like destroying the mortal realm while Goma was like trying to figure out how he was going to rule the demon realm. That's actually a really interesting story dynamic if you think about it. But yeah,
Right. I agree with that. That makes perfect sense.
yeah.
Dai-chan, thank you. I was just answering questions. That's all. But thank you for the suggestion. Let's continue. So Trunks chops this dude up into a million pieces. Very satisfying, and then blasts him into soot. The scene where Frieza was brought back as a bunch of like pieces in the movie was in Resurrection F was weird because really Trunks turned him into complete ash. Like, look at this, bro. He's literally pieces of ash, bro, just falling. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's crazy, dude. So now Vegeta's having a meltdown. Everyone's like crashing out at Trunks's easy victory here. And Vegeta feels confident to go ahead and fly in. So there's that. And what ends up happening is they all decide to go. Then Trunks and King Cold meet for the first time. And this is where King Cold's copium kicks in. And he's like, well, I'm sure you beat him because of your sword, because he thinks the sword made the man and the man didn't make the sword, right? So he gives Trunks the sword. I'm sorry, Trunks hands him the sword, like, yeah, here, take a look at it. Trunks knows that it wasn't just the sword. It was the man
and in the anime
wielding.
In the anime, when he gives King Cold the sword grows like 3 times. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget like the animators made the sword physically bigger when Trunks.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, they did. They made it huge.
I'm
like
gonna have to go back and look.
Yeah.
Yeah, so King Cold naively thought that Trunks' sword is what made him strong. And now he tries to attack Trunks, and Trunks uses his hands to block it. And King Cold's using his whole body. Right here you see it, him pushing down on the weight. And then Trunks says, looks like yet another error. King Cold should have just left, bro. He should have just gotten his ship and left. hand to the chest. Blammo. What a shot, man. I always like this because Trunks is so quick with everything. You know what I mean? Just so quick with it. King Cold goes down a bloody heap. Look at him right there dripping, just a mess. And then Trunks, I mean,
brutal.
It's actually more brutal because in the anime version, King Cold is begging for mercy, asking Trunks, "Oh, I'll give you a planet."
Oh,
Here
yeah,
he's already dead. He's already dead, bro. Look at him. Look at his eyes.
Oh, yeah, he's gone.
He's dead. The blast through the chest killed him in the anime version.
Yep.
And then Trunks blows up the ship. Like, Trunks destroys the ship.
He's like, nah,
in the anime version, he blew up King Cold and the ship. But here, King Cold's body is just laying there rotting forever.
Yep. That is interesting.
What do you think? Because I think that this actually, King Cold begging for mercy is one thing, but this just looks a lot more violent.
Oh, yeah. It's just, yeah. The thing is like, okay, just the way Trunks was acting in general when I watched this in the anime, when I found out that he was Vegeta's kid, I wasn't shocked at all because I was like, oh, that's the reason he's acting like that. He's cocky like his dad. So yeah, I think that to me this kind of reflects. I don't know. Like that's one thing I think is underrated about this scene because we just saw Vegeta struggling to kill Frieza. What, like a few chapters ago, and now his son, which he don't know it's his son, but his son shows up and wipes both the people who have made his life a living hell out with ease. And and his general attitude, the way he goes about it, the way like him being a Super Saiyan, Trunks being a Super Saiyan while also doing this adds a whole nother layer to that. So yeah, I think King Cold laying there lifeless kind of like sets the tone for the demise of the deserved demise of Cold and Frieza. You know what I mean?
Well, also, I like the fact that Vegeta does not know that's his son yet. Like, he's not going to know for a few more chapters. He doesn't find out till after the 3-year skip. So, he doesn't even know his name is Trunks, which...
Yeah. What do you think that Vegeta would have reacted to Trunks killing King Cold and Frieza differently if he knew that it was his son?
Yes, I think he would be a lot more proud. I think.
Yeah.
I think so. That I could be wrong, but I do believe that. So Trunks meets up with the Z Fighters, and they're telling him, "Okay, I know when Goku's gonna land. Like how." And then Vegeta says there's no other Saiyans. So how can he can even be a Super Saiyan?
Yeah.
Which is true, at least. I know Broly came out in 2018, but this is way before then. And Vegeta still didn't know about Broly or even his own brother still being alive. Chapter 333, Son Goku comes home. So they're all like there, but Trunks does not tell them details. He just knows the exact coordinates Goku will arrive in, but doesn't go into any details. He's got a Capsule Corporation jacket, and Bulma's like, "Oh, you must work there." Like there's clues being given to the audience to figure out who this guy is. Same hair as Trunks. He's a Saiyan. I'm sorry. Look at this. Same hair as Bulma. They're both Saiyans. Capsule Corp hat, or I'm sorry, I have the Capsule Corp hat. Capsule Corp jacket. Like, there's enough context clues for you to figure out that it's Vegeta and Bulma's son, but you still aren't sure.
Right. Toriyama is kind of rub it in your face, yeah.
Yeah. And Vegeta himself is like, who are you? Like, because time travel was such a foreign concept to them at this time. And Trunks doesn't want to tell him. And then he tells him, the only remaining Saiyans are myself, Kakarot, or Son Goku, as they call him here, and little earthling half-breed over there. There aren't any Saiyans left aside from us 3. So there's no possible way you could be one. Yeah, but he was definitely Super Saiyan when he beat Frieza. That's what Gohan said, which is true.
Right.
I like this mystery, bro.
And Gohan's the person to listen to because he saw Goku as a Super Saiyan, whereas Vegeta hadn't, you know.
And then here's where Bulma notices the Capsule Corp logo. You know?
Yeah, and then Vegeta's also noticing that Trunks doesn't have black hair. So that also makes him question whether or not Trunks is a Saiyan too.
And then he says, I can't tell you my name, but I can tell you that I'm 17 years old. So he doesn't want to tell them his name because if he tells them that his name is Trunks, it could interfere with him being born in this timeline because the name Trunks was picked by Vegeta and Bulma with no knowledge that he would end up going back in time.
Right.
That's the idea, because he could fuck up the timeline if he tells them his real name.
Yeah, in the anime, if you have no idea who Trunks is, whenever Vegeta like talks about how all Saiyans have black hair, it like he is making like a really good point.
He says it right here.
Yeah, it'll make you start to wonder like what Trunks actually is, and that's where your mind can naturally gravitate towards him being a half breed, kind of like Gohan.
When I was watching it with one of my exes, and she didn't know anything that was happening, and she had not seen Dragon Ball at all, she thought that Trunks was like an alien Saiyan that they didn't know about, kind of like how Broly was.
Right, so like just a different breed that lived on a different planet or something like that.
Well, just one that survived Planet Vegeta, but it wasn't like Vegeta. No, she didn't know about the time travel shit. Is what I'm trying to tell you.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So yeah. Okay, this is where they're all sort of discussing and saying, talking about Trunks, talking about who could this guy be? How does he know Goku? There's just a lot of unanswered questions. And then
the scene where he offers everybody a drink,
a soda, yeah,
that always made me thirsty as a kid. Like every time I saw them like all drinking soda together, I was like, man, I want one. Every time.
Soda
kind
of
like when you see the Turtles movies and they make you want pizza. It's like that kind of thing,
Or the Turtles cartoon, bro, because they draw pizza really, really good. Yeah, really good. And then here comes the ship, Goku's ship. Well, it's not Goku's ship, but Goku's in the ship.
Matter of fact, I gotta take a drink.
All right, so here it lands. Here's Goku in the yard trap guard, and he's like, "Huh?" Because he doesn't even know they were there. They're all happy to see him. How did you how did you all know that I'd be landing here? So he did escape alive. It was this boy right here. He told us where you were at. And then they're like, you know him, right? And he's like, no. Who the fuck is this? Like, he has no idea. Oh, sorry about that. I went too far there.
Yeah, that was another thing. Like, I don't know. Everything surrounding Trunks is a mystery.
Until this chapter.
Well, like the details, like, Goku not knowing who he is, the fact that he's a Super Saiyan who doesn't have black hair, there's tons of things that make you be like, what? Who is he? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's very well done.
I like it. Because that was a mystery for about 3 to 4 chapters. So people had to wait a month to find out, give or take.
Yeah.
So this is the big reunion. Goku finds out that the kid's also Super Saiyan, which he's also surprised about, like that. And again, they think he knows him,
right?
But he doesn't. And this is where Goku reveals that he learned a new technique from the Yard Rats called Shunkan Ido, which translates to instantaneous movement. But of course, because Barry Watson at Funimation thinks that kids are stupid, well, they just call it the instant transmission. Doesn't that sound like a car? Yeah, but you think kids are going to be able to say instantaneous? Yuck. I can't even say instantaneous. Instant. And it's like, why didn't you just call it instant movement? Wouldn't that have been the same thing?
Yeah.
They have to change everything, bro. Just like Dr. Garo had to be Jiro, and they couldn't help themselves, bro, from changing everything. Yep. So even Trunks is like, you mean like teleportation? Which is funny because that's what it literally translates to.
Yeah, it is
Instantaneous
teleportation.
movement. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that, the instantaneous movement. Yeah. And he talks about Planet Yardrat and like the weird people that aren't strong, but they have a lot of weird techniques. And then this guy's over here like, that means that immediately changed the course of history. And as a result, I've ran to the others. My intention was only to meet with Goku. That's not exactly true, but it is, but not really.
Yeah.
So this is where Goku and Trunks have the one-on-one discussion away from everybody, but Piccolo can hear with his Namekian ears. Goku goes Super Saiyan for the first time since Planet Namek. And everyone's like, a lot of these people have not seen Super Saiyan yet because Krillin was dead when it happened, and so was Yamcha, and so was Tenshinhan and Chaozu. But they didn't see any of this.
Yeah, and I'm sure it would
Vegeta.
be. You're basically like watching your buddy that you grew up with turn into a god. You know, it's wild.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah. What happened to Son Kun? He turned into a Super Saiyan. Like now they're starting to recognize this. That's what this is. I mean, no wonder he could take down Frieza. I mean, I'll become a Super Saiyan too. So then there they go. They're both transformed. Yes, Gohan was the only one who saw it. You're right. You're right about that. Vegeta saw it in the anime version, but not in the manga. And then this is when Trunks pulls the sword out. I love this scene. Goku recognizes that Trunks is not really coming at him with the killer instinct. He's like, give me all you got. Goku does the alpha shit with his fucking finger where he powers it up and he deflects the sword with one finger, bro. This is so fucking awesome, dude. I can't even tell you. This scene is one of the coolest scenes in anime and manga. This is Dragon Ball Z episode 123, and it's so fucking raw, dude.
Yeah, this is one of those him moments that Goku's got. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm him, bro. And then Trunks is like, yeah, you really are that great. Puts the sword away, and now he basically did the Seraph line from Matrix Reloaded, where he's like, you really don't know someone until you fight them. And that's when he realized, okay, you are great. And this is where he says, I came here from 20 years in the future. My name is Trunks. The reason I have Saiyan blood is I'm the son of Vegeta. And then Goku's all shocked.
Yells it out. You know, realistically, they would all hear that, especially with Goku's big mouth. Like, I don't know.
I know, and they're not that far away.
Yeah,
they're not that far. Chapter 335. So this is where, you know, he sees the resemblance a bit. This is where he's like, yeah, I came back in time to give you a warning. And this is kind of it right here. In 3 years' time, on May 12th, at approximately 10 in the morning on an island 9 kilometers southwest of South City, a fearsome duo is going to appear. They're monsters possessing power unimaginable for those of this world. They're artificial humans that were created right here on Earth, cyborgs. Their creator is Dr. Garo, not Jiro. Jiro is how the dub pronounced it, and I don't know why. I couldn't even tell you because in the Japanese version, it's Gero. And he says that he's the chief scientist of the now defunct Red Ribbon Army. That's why I've got the hat. Red Ribbon Army, he's like, yeah, the army was destroyed by you, but Dr. Garo survived and went on to continue his research. Remember how in the dub they also changed it to where Garo was the leader even though he wasn't?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
They just went in and made changes without even doing a little bit of homework, without even checking OG Dragon Ball to see who the hell actually was the leader. They did no research, bro.
I always assumed that maybe he inherited it because that's all I had back then was the dub. Is that like he just like took it over after everybody else was killed?
But that makes a bit more sense.
Yeah, that's what I had always like assumed in my mind, you know.
Nah, not me, because I remember I saw these episodes subbed first, and so when they aired dubbed, I was watching them just to see what they would change, and that annoyed me. In fact,
Right.
I actually remember that when the episode aired when Trunks killed Frieza, I was actually at a doctor's office because I had pink eye. And I
Mm.
remember I had pink eye. I was like 16, 15. I think I was 15. I think 15, something like that. So I had pink eye, and I remember they had Dragon Ball Z on at the doctor's office.
Oh
So
wow.
I'm there. Yeah, they had it on Cartoon Network they had a TV on like the corner, and they had that on. So we were just
Oh wow.
sitting there. Yeah, just
Awesome.
chilling.
Having
Hold
pink
on.
eye sucks, but at least you got to watch Dragon Ball.
Yeah, I know, but I got to get mad at it for them changing everything. Hold on. Trent says Barry Watson retconning shit with no approval from Shueisha, Toei, or Toriyama. Well, he's not going to get to talk to Toriyama, but it's not a retcon. It's a straight up change.
Yeah, it's just an
That's not
unfortunate
retconning,
localization.
bro.
Yeah.
A retcon is retroactive continuity. It's just literally a change.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate localization move. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a
Which is
retcon.
unorthodox in the anime industry. Like the things that he changed is unorthodox. They normally don't change that much, you know.
Right. Okay, some more super chats here. Jason says, "What's up, guys? I know it's unrelated, but imagine if Kid Buu had the evil third eye, there would be no super." Well, yeah, he would have smashed everybody with the third eye. Yes, that is a fact. Justin then says, "Danny, do you think King Cold was capable of transforming like Frieza?" That's a question I've gotten like 10,000 times since starting YouTube. In fact, I think we've all gotten that question.
We talked about
Also,
it last Mangalorian, I think. But
did we? I thought we were going to
yeah,
save that for this
because
week.
we were talking about it towards the end of it, I think, because I was talking about how it doesn't make any sense to me that, you know, Frieza would be considered more dangerous than King Cold if King Cold could transform. You know what I mean? There's
But
really
I
no
think
point.
I think what he means is, was King Cold in his second form, or is that King Cold's like final form? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and I think what I ended up saying last time we talked about this was that I could see him getting the third form, but not the final form. Because remember, we talked about how
Yeah,
Frieza
but
kind of.
remember, bro, the final form is Frieza's true form.
That's what I mean. But when Frieza lowers his power level, he kind of devolves, right? Like he kind of like goes backwards in evolution whenever he powers himself down. So that seems to suggest that King Cold is like a lower level version of what their species is as a whole. You know what I mean?
Well, Toriyama said that King Cold and Frieza are both mutants.
Yeah, and I
He
do
put
think
them
that he
both
is
in
a
the same
mutant.
category.
I do think he is a mutant, but I think he's only a mutant in the sense that he's like Frieza's second form. You know?
He says, he goes on to say, also, it's crazy that we meet Frieza's pop and he just dies with a snap of Trunks' fingers. I mean, it's true. There was not a lot of King Cold in the manga or even in the anime.
Yeah, that's true.
It was so I don't know, like brief. And a lot of people, I think, want more King Cold. And there's obviously fan fiction and Dragon Ball Unseen. We gave him a transformation, but that was more for fun than anything. So I just think that, it might sound like a weird thing, but people really seem intrigued by King Cold, even though he was so short lived.
Right.
So we got a couple more super chats here. Con JKJ, what do you guys think about adding more Saiyans to the cast down the line? Do you think it'll be oversaturated with Saiyans? I think it's already oversaturated with Saiyans, bro.
Yeah.
I think Broly made sense at the time for to basically bring people to tell the backstory and to bring people up to snuff with Broly being part of the story. But adding more, dude, where would they even come from?
If you count the hybrids, yeah, there's already it's like everything is already
And
Saiyan oriented.
Universe 6, I am counting the hybrid and Universe 6.
Yeah.
Like they still
Yeah.
got a bunch of like they have a whole planet in Universe 6.
Yep.
So I think if Khan JKJ means like new Saiyans from Universe 6, I agree. That could be okay. But if you mean like Saiyan survivors from Universe 7, I don't like that. Broly
Right.
should have been the last one.
Yeah.
Here we go again with this, bro. Bring back Nappa and Raditz. I'm never gonna understand, bro. It's just two different wavelengths. Justin Sullivan said the prodigal son returns. Goku is back. Yes, indeed. Gabby says, you making fun of Dub never fails to make me laugh. You should be on the Saturday streams if you are, because I really go into it there, the Twitch streams. Justin says, fun fact, Goku's sparring match with Trunks is the only win he gets in this storyline. That's a interesting thing he pointed out. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's interesting. Goku definitely gets humbled as this arc progresses, for sure.
And then Justin says, now, why is what Trunk's saying sound familiar? I got it. The time travel thing was inspired off of 21 Jump Street. I don't know, bro. I actually haven't seen 21 Jump Street, so I can't really comment on that. But
Toriyama would have to be a time traveler for that to be possible, like Trunks. So,
like Trunks, yeah. So speaking of which, this is the part where Dr. Garo wanted revenge. So he says he made two more artificial humans, number 19 and 20. They were intended to be the ultimate killing machine, but they rebelled and ended up killing Dr. Garo instead of the man who gave them life. Instead, the man who gave them life, with them gone, all that remains are the artificial humans who delight in slaughter and destruction. So he's talking about 17 and 18. Now, it was 19 and 20, but this was only in the manga. The anime version, no numbers were said. So this has led people into thinking that if that originally 19 and 20 were the androids from the future, and that when Trunks left the timeline, he butterfly affected it to where it branched off into another timeline where it was 17 and 18. This is a much more complicated discussion than we should have on this Mangalorian, because you and I could be talking about this for the next hour. Like, trying to figure out all this time travel shit is really, it's not like I'm afraid to have the conversation, because I'm not, but there's so much to talk about and we have so much to get through that I'm not sure if this is the right time for it. You know what I mean?
well, we can, if you want to learn, look, I'll just summarize it this way. If you want to learn how time travel works in Dragon Ball, just look up time stream theory. Okay. It's the same type of time travel that Marvel uses, DC. Of course, they alter it a little bit, but like in the Loki, it's in the Loki series, for example, like we see the different branches of time. You know what I mean? Like, it's all very, very similar in that sense, but like just having a basic understanding of how time stream theory works will give you a basic understanding of how Toriyama is implementing time travel here. Essentially, there are events that happen that can create separate branches of time, and then there's also one main branch of time. That's basically the easiest way to summarize it. So.
Yeah, but the funny thing about Dragon Ball, why people get caught up, and again, this is why I don't want to go too deep into this topic, is that the actual main timeline is the one that Trunks is from, that was taken over by the androids. That was the events that was supposed to happen. Trunks going back in time, creating a split timeline, and giving Goku the heart virus just created a new timeline, and we've been following that new timeline into the Buu Saga, into Daima, and into Super. Yeah. Even though we call it the main timeline, the real first timeline is the original one where Trunks went back in time.
Well, it's the original one where Trunks got killed, actually.
Yes, you are right about that. The original timeline is actually Cell's timeline. I didn't want to go into that yet. And again, we may have to, I don't know how we're gonna do this because this gets really, really complex. And again, I'm not against talking about it. It's just I don't know if the Mangalorian is the right time to talk about it. Is what I'm
Well,
saying.
just
'Cause
think.
it's a
Look,
long conversation, bro.
here's one way I can summarize it. That's pretty simple. Okay, don't think of Trunks' time machine as a time machine. Think of it as a timeline generator. Okay, if you think
Okay,
about it as
that part is true. Yeah.
if you think about it like it's a time machine, it might confuse you a little bit. But what it's actually doing is it's generating an entirely new, like multiverse, an entirely new timeline that didn't exist before. And then he can set the coordinates between that new branch that he's created and the one that he came from and travel back and forth without creating a new timeline. But the first time he picks a destination on the time machine and goes there, that timeline did not exist prior to him going there. He is actually generating it and creating it when he goes there, and
He
that's what makes the
created the
time machine
split.
crazy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Also, this is why, again, I did not want to go deep into this because he says when Trunks returns the second time, is it a different Trunks? That is something a lot of people have theorized because of the fact that
It is a different Trunks. It's not a
it
theory.
is.
It's that you don't even have to theorize. So what happens is, okay, think about it this way. Trunks traveling to this timeline is a part of the events of this timeline. It is a permanent part of the events of this timeline. It will happen
Yes.
in this timeline no matter what. So
Yes.
when Cell generated a new timeline, he generated a new timeline where this event would inevitably happen, which means that he also generated a timeline that Trunks would come from. So essentially, because the splitting of the timelines is a part of the events within this timeline, when Cell went back in time, he created a set of events that would inevitably lead to two more timelines being created as a result of this being an event that is set in stone in this arc. This is going to happen no matter what. So the fact that Cell traveled earlier before this happens cements the fact that there's going to be another Trunks show up in this timeline. So that's what it is. Cell actually ended up creating another Trunks by going into this timeline 3 years prior to this event. So
Yeah, that is. There's more to it than that, but like I said, it's a lot to get into, man.
yeah,
We'll be going. What we'll do is we'll go piece by piece on the Mongolian. So when we get to Cell, when we get to the discussion about the time travel, we'll talk more about it then. Because
yeah,
I don't want to confuse people. But yes, originally it was 19 and 20. And we've talked about this before. 19 and 20 were the original intended villains of this arc until Toriyama's ex-editor, Torishima, who was still friends with Toriyama at the time, even though they weren't working together, told him, so you're telling me the villain of this arc is an old man and a fat clown? And that's when Toriyama created the 17 and
the
18,
twins. Yeah,
and then
Raptors and twins.
shortly after that is the Torishima was like, there's a bunch of punk kids and a bunch of teenagers, and then that's what led to Cell. So Torishima, very influential.
Yeah.
Very influential.
Also, the blue-haired Trunks is not a different Trunks. I do want to acknowledge that because
It's not.
somebody said that in the chat. No, he
A
is the
lot
same.
of people think that though.
No, he is the same Trunks.
It is the same Trunks, but I
Yeah.
understand why you'd be confused because future Trunks has blue hair and Super, and then present Trunks is the same purple hair.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah, Dokkan It Up says, I think Kwame has a whole table of the events of the timeline. Yeah, he did a video called The Dragon Ball Time Travel Theory, which everybody should watch because it is a very good video, but it does not factor in anything about Super. Nothing with Super.
Right.
It was made before Super. Wait, hold on a minute. I got to go in order here. Okay, before we get to that one, Tehran Aries says Sad to think about the Cell timeline where Trunks and Gohan are both dead. Chi-Chi and Bulma must be devastated that their sons and husbands are dead. Yeah, that is one of the darkest timelines, the Cell one, because he's right. Darkest. They are all dead.
It's the darkest, yeah.
Don Hoop said, sorry about Yen comment. Still a fan of you. Dude, you literally wrote the same thing 3 times in the chat. And then, no, here's the funny thing. I saw him write it in the chat, and I read it, and then he submits a super chat saying the same thing.
Well, he just wants you to know, bro. He just wants you
to
know.
No, I don't know if I should have said something, because he spent $4.99. I appreciate it, but I don't know if I should have said, like, okay, or I don't know what to say. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you doing the research and taking the criticism and being the bigger man and learning out of the situation. Yeah. We do appreciate that. Yeah.
I do appreciate that. Yeah. And the reason why, like, your comment didn't make any sense is because yen is a different currency than US currency. But if you actually think that means that voice actors get paid less, well, first of all, you have no idea how much Nozawa makes. And I do have an idea. She makes more than Sean Schemmel. And to be honest, she kind of should. Because she voices more than just Goku. Yeah, she's been around longer. Like, I know how much Nozawa makes, bro. And people would be surprised. People would be surprised at how much she makes, bro. She makes more than any animator makes. So, you know what I'm saying? She's doing well. So anyways, back to this. So basically, the story here is that these androids can't be beaten. Like, you know, and then, you know, Goku, Trunks tells them that, you know, that you weren't there, because Goku's like, wait a minute, is anyone there to help you? And then he's like, no, because everyone's gone. So he says, in the battle 3 years from now, my father over there, along with Krillin-san, Kuririn-san, Yamcha-san, Tenshinhan-san, Chaozu-san, and Piccolo-san, all of them were killed. So everyone dies.
Right.
Son Gohan-san barely managed to escape alive. He became my teacher and took it upon himself to teach me how to fight. But 4 years ago, well, we know what happened. It's the events of the history of Trunks, both anime and manga. As you're aware, with Piccolo-san's death, the Dragon Balls are gone as well. And without them, we weren't able to wish anyone back to life. So, because Piccolo in them.
Here's something funny and goofy. I'll let you guys in on about me. I did not try to turn into a Super Saiyan as a kid until I watched the Future Trunks special.
Really?
When I saw Gohan like trying to teach Trunks how to become a Super Saiyan, and then the scene where Trunks turns into a Super Saiyan because Gohan died, like I actually wanted to turn into a Super Saiyan so bad as a kid back then. I was so goofy.
I don't know why he's telling me to look at the guy's question again. I did see it. Did I miss? I didn't miss anything. I don't know. I thought maybe that I had missed something. Yeah, well, and then this is the part where Trunks is crashing out because he's like, we can't do anything. You know, and then this is when Goku's like, what happened to me? Did they kill me too? He's like, you never got the chance to fight. Not long from now, you're going to come down with an illness. It's going to be the death of you. What? And then Piccolo with his Namekian ears can hear it. It's a virus that attacks the heart. Not even a Super Saiyan can fight off the illness. What a bummer. And not even a Senzu works against it. Damn, I'm just going to die then? I really wanted to fight these guys. Of course, that's Goku. The part that upsets you the most is that you won't get to fight. You don't feel any fear. He's like, well, sure, I'm afraid, but they sound so strong. I really want to know if I can beat them. This is the arc. And Mr. Fusion pointed this out. This is the arc where Goku's decisions start to be a lot more influenced on him wanting to test himself, despite it not making sense logically. Meaning that even after all the warnings that Trunks gave, Goku still wants to fight them. However, Goku has a tremendous amount of fighting spirit, So in his mind, it's like, okay, I can beat these people. And if I know they're coming, I can train my ass off to beat them. That's his mentality. But obviously, logically, and you and I have talked about this before, Jordan, logically, it's not a choice that anybody in the real world would make because they're not Goku.
Well, they would be focused on their survival more than anything else. Goku doesn't. Goku, like, if he thinks that there's a chance that he can get stronger out of the situation, he'll take advantage of it. But the thing is, what's really ironic about that is that attitude, like you just pointed out, seems counterproductive until you consider that attitude is why Goku's so strong and why they survive countless situations in the future as well. So
Yeah.
it's like it's a weird, it's all in your perception. It goes back to what I said earlier. Like, you can look at it, it is illogical on its face, like just factually illogical. But depending on how you look at it, it can be logical in the sense that in the long term, it does serve to keep Goku at the top of the food chain, So.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
I love how Trunks is like, well, you are the genuine article, right? He's putting them over. And he basically says, you are the legend, and he's proud to have actually met him. So this is the heart medicine. So this is the medication. Disease incurable in this era, but in 20 years there is a wonder drug for it. With this medication, you won't have to die. This right here eliminates the fact that the virus came from space. A lot of people seem to think that Goku got the heart virus on planet Namek or something like that, or somewhere in space. But no, the heart virus in Dragon Ball is something that was a legitimate virus that infected people in the future. But the people who created the medicine, the antidote, were people that figured it out on Earth. Now,
Right.
What do you think about the theory? Now, this is really going to blow your mind, that the heart virus medication was actually made by Red Pharmaceuticals. What a twist would that be?
That would be awesome. That'd be really cool. As far as like why it's a heart virus, I've seen people like, the fact that it is a heart virus that attacks the heart specifically has led to a lot of theories. But in my opinion, I think the reason Toriyama made it a heart virus is because the heart is the source of Goku's power. So if he has a heart virus, that really does hinder his ability.
Well, that's the source of everyone's power when you think about it, though, right?
That's what I mean. But like, particularly with Goku, because he's the one that gets the virus, it makes perfect sense. Because when he goes Super Saiyan, what's he doing? He's taking advantage of his anger for power. What does anger do? It stresses the heart. So it makes a lot of sense that, the source of his energy and of his power, would be hindered by a virus. So I think that's where Toriyama's mind was at.
Here we go again. Dr. Hedo making viruses now. That's not what I said. I said, what if the virus medicine was made by Red Pharmaceuticals? Listen, open the ears up, brother. Open the ears up. I didn't say that Red Pharmaceuticals made the virus. I said, wouldn't it be something if they made the antidote, the one that exactly. Trunks is giving Goku? Because it's a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
So now Robo P does bring up a genuine point. If this virus is going around on Earth, I'm surprised no one else got the virus if they were near Goku. And that is also true. Like, how does this thing spread? We never get enough information on it. We never get enough information about where it came from, how it spread. Maybe it spread through, like, I don't know, feces. I have no idea, dude. I'm just saying that it's a lot of people make assumptions on the virus, but we don't know much about it at all. Toriyama never really expounded upon that,
Yeah, I think
the virus is a mystery.
I think literally the only reason it exists is to hinder Goku, obviously. So
it's a way to write him out and make the future more bleak.
Right.
Yeah. And then here Trunks says it's wrong for me to do this, change history, but I mean we've kind of got. I mean they have to do it. You have to do it. I have faith that you'll be able to do something and make a difference. That's all my mother hoped for as well, as she worked hard on finishing the time machine. Hang on, your mom knows me? She made the time machine? Don't tell me your mom is. She's right over there. And that's
He
the
figured
real.
it out right quick.
That's
so quick.
That's the real twist. Vegeta being the dad is one thing, right?
Yeah, but Bulma being his mom.
Bulma being the mom. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. Because who would have ever thought that would happen?
Right.
When you first saw this show or read this manga or whatever, prior to getting to this part, did you ever think that Vegeta and Bulma would get together? It's such a weird.
I never really considered it, but you got to understand, like, from the perspective that I was watching it fresh off the Saiyan Saga, or like watching repeats of the Saiyan Saga and the Namek Saga. So I had always, like, looked at the Namek Saga, despite the fact that Vegeta was going to inevitably be in this arc. I had never really considered his future much in that era because of how everything ended on Namek. You know what I mean? So I wasn't really thinking about what Toriyama was going to do with his character back then in that way,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, who would have thought? You know what I mean? Who would have thought? And I can imagine it. I can only imagine how much of a shocker it was for the readers back then as they're reading this week to week as it's coming out. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was a shocker to me the first time I found out. I was like, oh my God, what?
Yeah, it's not something expected, but hey, the next couple of weeks of Daima are going to end up being like that too, and we'll leave it at that, bro. So, and then here's when Goku's like, I thought for sure Bulma would settle down with Yamcha, but Vegeta? And then Trunks says, she got fed up with Yamcha always playing the field, and well, they broke up. AKA, he fucked somebody else. I made a video a long time ago going into this, and I discussed that Yamcha probably cheated on Bulma, and that's why they split. And there was a contingent of people, the shipping community, who had a real problem with me saying that this happened. It's right here, bro. Yamcha was playing the field. What do you think that means, bro? He's talking about baseball. That's what it is. Bulma's mad because Yamcha played baseball. That must be what it is. Come on, man. Around that time, she saw my father. She told me how he looked so lonesome, and well, it happened. Yeah, it happened, bro. I'll bet it did happen, bro.
Yeah, Trunks is like having a hard time having to explain his own birth, bro. It's wild.
No, and he's blushing about it. Then he says, they never did marry. You know how my mother can be. I like how, okay, we have to discuss this. They never did marry. You know how my mother can be. Does that imply that Vegeta wanted to get married and Bulma was the one that didn't want to? Isn't it usually the other way around?
Yeah, I don't know if he's calling his mom a hoe or what, but it's funny either way.
I don't know if he is either. That's the thing. Or if he's saying that Vegeta's like this semi-conservative dude who's like, hey,
I just
now that we have a kid, I want to get married.
I feel sorry for Trunks for having to have this conversation with Bulma at some point.
No, it's true. All right, let's continue here. And then, he says, my father died before he was old enough to remember him, so I was thrilled to meet him. Yeah, because Trunks never met his dad, so there you go. Are they not married still? I'm pretty sure they're married by now.
Yeah, they're married now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure by now they're married because in the Majin Buu saga, in the manga, Vegeta calls Bulma his... No, it's 18 that... Krillin calls 18 his wife, not Vegeta. Bulma.
Well, in Daima, whenever, what's his name? The dude that has the third eye on his belt. I'm spacing his name.
Hibis? Hibis?
Yeah, when he talks about how he'll
Yeah,
make
he says
Bulma
that's
his
my
girlfriend.
wife.
Yeah, he's like we're already married. Shut up. He's like, I'll pick
Right.
you up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking about the Buu Saga line, but that was Krillin, not Vegeta.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're married by now. So Trunks is about to leave. Now Trunks is all marking out, right? Stay alive. In the meantime, we're going to be training. Trunks will be back. Trunks will return, as they say. And then of course, Piccolo heard everything, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And my sense of hearing is quite different from the rest of yours. You know, so he heard the whole thing. And then he's like, you're not going to tell them I will. And then he's like, don't worry, I won't say anything to jeopardize the boy's existence. AK, I'm not going to say who he is and who his parents are. But the rest of the stuff he should tell them. And so Piccolo told them the arrival of the androids and all that, and that everybody needs to train and get ready or whatever the case is. And then Piccolo himself says, I'm going to make sure I don't die. I'm going to train. And then this is where Trunks says goodbye to his parents. Father, you're strong.
Egg-shaped time machine.
Was that a Journey to the West egg?
Yeah. You know, they make the time machine look different at different points. I've noticed
Kind of.
that.
Yeah, kind of. But it's still egg-shaped.
Yeah.
Father, you're a strong, proud, stern, and lonesome man. You're just as my mother said you were. Please survive what's coming. And young mother, good luck to you as well. He says goodbye, and away he goes back to the future. And then Vegeta's like, I'm not going to die. I'm going to train, and I'm going to make it. Chapter 336, The Risky Decision. So the gist of this chapter is they figure out that this is what I'm going to summarize it quickly by saying they figure out that Goku took one of the Ginyu ships because the Ginyu ship was supposed to go to Yardrat, and that Goku got the clothing from the Yardrats and learned teleportation.
Yeah,
right?
he also
Instantaneous movement.
He also learned. He also did some spirit training and got stronger in general as well. Like this Goku is stronger than the Goku on Namek. That goes without saying, but yeah.
Yes, definitely. No, it goes without saying. Yeah, way stronger, but he's still not strong enough to beat the androids because even the future one, the future android, like the one from the future had the same training on Yardrat and he still couldn't win. So there you go. And now, so this is the part that is criticized by a lot of people. So Bulma says, I was just thinking, why don't we track down this Dr. Garo guy who created these artificial humans and take him out now while we still can. Even if we don't know where he is, we use the Dragon Balls to call out Shenlong, and sure, he'll be able to tell us. If we do that, we won't have to go through all this trouble in 3 years. This is the most logical thing.
Yeah, this is the fandom talking.
Well, but I mean more so if we were in this series, like if we were in Dragon Ball, this would be the most logical thing to do. Right. Instead of waiting for the androids to come, let's get rid of the guy who created them ahead of time, grandfather affecting him. But Vegeta is very against it.
The pride of a Saiyan.
So Bulma says, are you nuts? This isn't a game. The whole planet's riding on it. You agree with me, Goku. Then Goku says, I kind of want to fight too.
The pride of a martial artist.
This scientist hasn't even made anything yet. So taking him out now is a little, okay, that's true. But my argument was, you don't have to kill him. You can just arrest him. But they don't even do that.
Yeah, I think the reason they have Vegeta say that he doesn't want to kill him and then have Goku say that he doesn't want to kill him and then have Tien say that he doesn't want to kill him is because they're trying to say, they're trying to say it's a Saiyan thing, it's a martial arts thing, and it's a hybrid. So like Goku's like both, Tien's like one side of the spectrum, Vegeta's like the other side of the spectrum, and Goku's like a mix of both. Like he's got the pride of a Saiyan and the pride of a martial artist. So he's got both of those things going for him. And Krillin kind of alludes to what I've been saying about these decisions that Goku makes here in just a few minutes. He talks about how, everybody started off being Goku's enemies at first, and now they're all his friends surrounding him, ready to help him take on, these future threats. So, even Krillin kind of acknowledges the fact that Goku and everybody else's decisions in this case have short-term consequences but long-term benefits. And Toriyama's kind of pointing that out through Krillin here.
I love how Bulma says, guys, we don't have to listen to these Saiyans. They're a bunch of battle crazed maniacs.
And then Tien's like,
no, I'll do it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And then here Krillin says, all of us were here were once each other's enemies in the past, right? I mean, at first I hated Goku, but whenever a powerful enemy showed up, we had no choice but to put that all behind us. And before we knew it, we all ended up as friends. And well, ordinarily this group would never train together, and some of these guys can be pretty nasty on their own. I'm trying to say that without a common enemy, Piccolo might be okay, but who knows what Vegeta's going to pull. So that's a pretty smart thing he said. Like, we don't know what could happen.
Yeah.
Now,
he's saying that he's pointing out what the Goku effect is. The only reason they're all training with Goku and there to get stronger with him is because they're put in a position where they have to, and Goku's put them in that position. So that is a very smart observation on Krillin's part. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, because it's like we need to keep these guys busy. So I want to address this. He says, imagine Cell's face coming to the present and the androids are disabled. Super Vegeta would have clapped his shit quick. Well, no, because if you're talking about the Super Vegeta that fought Cell in Dragon Ball Z, that wouldn't make any sense, because the only reason as to how Vegeta became Super Vegeta is after losing to the androids.
Right.
So Vegeta may have never learned Super Vegeta or anywhere near as quickly had he not lost to the androids. So that is an important part of Vegeta's development, is him not winning that fight to 18. Justin Sullivan says, now Vegeta and Bulma having a child is quite a plot twist, but now I got questions such as, did Yamcha go to counseling over the guy who killed him banging his girl? That's a great question, bro. Would you?
If I was cheating on her, probably not. You know what I mean? You obviously don't care too much if you're cheating,
That I agree with you. I agree with you on that. Then he says, my second question is, who did Vegeta penetrate deeper into, Bulma or Zarbon? Damn. He was either waiting to ask that question here or forgot to ask it like 3 streams ago when we saw Vegeta versus Zarbon.
Right.
Damn, bro. Justin's always bringing the entertaining super chats here on these Mangalorians. So they decided, okay, we're going to train before May 12th. If you want to stay home, if you're not confident, stay at home. Goku says that's fine. Vegeta, of course, declares he's going to become Super Saiyan himself. He'll figure it out. They all leave. Everybody dips out. And then Goku says, have a healthy baby. And Bulma's like, are you pregnant? And then Yamcha says, I think I know what he's trying to say, that we should stop waiting around to get married and start ourselves a big, happy family. Yamcha wants pussy, bro, is what he's basically saying. He wants to be able to gack in that, yeah. And then here's, of course, because Goku teleported to get his glasses. This is where Vegeta tells Dr. Brief to make him a sorry about that, to make him a 300G gravity room to help him, do what Goku did. Chi-Chi is very concerned over all of this.
She doesn't want to go on training again.
Yeah. She's not as much of a dragon lady in the manga as she is in the anime, but this I
This is
sort
her
of
peak.
get it.
This is her peak Dragon Lady moment right here. But you can't blame her at this point because, well, I mean, look at everything that's happened so far. You know,
We're 2 arcs into Gohan being a fighter, and that she didn't want that to ever happen to him, even before all that.
right?
You know. So yeah, it's man. Okay. But yeah, see, she's full out Dragon Lady right here. I don't give a damn what else happens. Gohan Chan's studying. And then Goku smacks her in the back and knocks her into a tree. This is such a funny moment in the anime because
Yeah.
he just taps her gently, not realizing how much stronger he got.
Goku
And he
reminds me
just
of Goku's outfit right there. Reminds me of Roshi's outfit.
he's just wearing a white shirt with
Yeah,
pants.
because Roshi wears that a lot. He just wears the white. He's got the
Oh
white.
yeah, like the
Yeah.
wife beater.
Yeah.
He's wearing a wife beater while he accidentally beat his wife. Goku is.
Yeah.
Goku is wearing a wife beater when he accidentally beat his wife. I don't know if that was done on purpose or not, but damn. Justin says, I did actually make a joke about Vegeta's fight with Zarbon on that stream, but I forgot to read it. Oh, I'm sorry. I usually don't miss yours. So I apologize for forgetting. So I usually don't miss super chats, although I have a couple times in my life, and I'm sorry about that. I don't want anybody to feel that they were left out. I am sorry about that. And then this is when Chi-Chi says, I give up. It's always the woman who ends up in tears. But once these 3 years are up, I won't stand for any more Kempo, which is martial arts. Or Budo is martial arts, but same thing. And then he's like, I'm sorry. Even Super Saiyans have weaknesses, is what Piccolo says.
Yeah, Piccolo's listening in on the whole thing. He's just being an eavesdropper.
Yeah, now that we have that plot point established, like further, yeah. So here's Vegeta training his ass off. I will surpass you. And then, bam, we have a very quick time skip. Sorry, no driver's test episode. None of that stuff happened in the manga. Now we finally made it on May 12. Everybody gets out, and they're all on their way. They're already expecting 19 and 20. So then here we have this right here.
That's an iconic shot. That's the shot that
Yes.
they use in the anime all the time when Goku goes Super Saiyan.
That's
At
the
the end
shot
of
they
the-
use in the
the
Chala
opening.
Head Chala opening
Yep.
for the Android and Cell Saga, where instead of it being Yamcha and the OG Dragon Ball people, even though Yamcha is there, and Roshi's out, and you've got these characters there instead.
Yeah.
And Gohan. Now more like a fighter than anything. So. Oh, sorry about that. I didn't mean to go that fast. So we have now arrived. Now, in the 3-year time skip has happened. It's 3 years have gone by. Now they're going to go to that island where they're going to show up. Gohan's gotten bigger and stronger. Everyone's improved. Everyone's gotten more powerful. I had heard someone, and I don't remember who it was. Oh, God, who said this? Somebody said that, like, Gohan and Goku didn't get that much stronger during those 3 years. I disagree with that. Where'd they get that from?
I
Where
don't
did I hear
know.
that?
I think they're just used to like exponentially huge increases like Super Saiyan or even like the Yardrat training and stuff like that. So they just think of like all of the boosts as like massively huge. But like, you know, it's a 3-year training session. So obviously they're going to be getting some progress, right? Like,
Right. You are right. Okay. Here we have Bulma's first appearance with the present Trunks' first appearance as a baby. So we are seeing that. We are seeing that there.
yeah, and it's funny because it hasn't been that long ago since we saw Yamcha being like, yeah, we're going to have a baby and have a family and get married. And now we're seeing Yamcha be like, you'll never guess who the dad is. You know, it's so funny.
Bro, I cannot believe that Games and Movies actually misspelled my name, bro. I just he misspelled geekdom, bro.
Caked them, bro.
Bro, I'm not even gonna address his question, but I mean him being a bad speller is a joke, but it's not a joke. He's a horrible speller. But to misspell my name, especially when my name is written right over here, I'm just I don't know, man. That's special. So, anyways, and this is where Yamcha's like, that ain't my kid. You're not gonna believe whose kid this is. We broke up a long time ago. And then Goku realizes it's Vegeta. How could you possibly know that? I haven't told anyone. Oh, I'm just saying, I got that impression. You know, his face kind of looks like Vegeta's.
Goku's such a bad liar.
Bad liar, bro.
I remember
Bad
he
liar.
I remember he insulted Kami for being a bad liar, but he's a pretty bad liar too.
I get why he's doing it. I think at this point, because they're all gonna find out anyways. At this point, just give it up. So
Right.
I do love this. I actually love this art here with this island with like the mountain and
City.
everything. And
Yeah.
yeah. I love it. I love the way the backgrounds look. Hold on, let me see if there's okay. Air Dog 711 says, wasn't the spy bot watching them during training? No. That is explained literally in the manga in a few chapters. In fact, it might actually be this chapter. We'll get to it. That's coming up very shortly. It's either this chapter or the next one. So they can't sense anybody. They don't sense anything, so they don't know. Yajirobe shows up. Why? Who knows? But nobody's sensing anything. Of course, we find out the answer later on. Then, bam, there's an explosion. They're like, wait a minute, what the hell just happened here? And then in the explosion, you see these two little dots fly down, and they're like, oh, they're in the city. Like, let's go. So they see them, but they couldn't sense them. Like, and that's already foreshadowing for things to come. So we have our first look at number 19 and number 20. Moving on to chapter 338, Slaughter in South City. So, summary of this chapter, just to go through a little bit quicker, is that they are trying to see how the hell they can find these guys because they can't sense it, right? They can't sense them because they're artificial humans.
Right.
And Trunks didn't leave a picture or nothing, so they don't even know what they're looking for. Thankfully, though, the forehead right here should be a dead giveaway, you would think.
Yeah.
Right? Plus, they look different from everybody else. There's a lot of real brutal shit here. This headbutt is brutal. This part right here is so much more brutal in the manga than in the anime.
Yeah,
Look
he
at
literally
that.
pops his head like a balloon. It's crazy.
I mean, he decapitated him, bro.
Yeah,
He
but he
straight up
decapitated him by squeezing his throat so hard
that he
that
ripped it. That's
ooh.
well,
Yeah.
I'm saying it's gruesome, dude. Like it's straight up gruesome.
Yeah, Toriyama knew how to draw violence, that's for sure.
No, I mean it is gruesome, bro. Somebody sent me some. I'll tell you later. Okay, so let's see. Then Yamcha hears the scream. He's the first one to investigate. They can sense the energy, right? They know. They're like, it's more than any regular human, right? We're gonna move through this quickly because there's not much to really go over.
Yeah.
The whole thing is trying to find out where they're at. Yamcha turns around and he isn't sure. I don't know how he couldn't just tell from the hat. And then right before he can say anything, Garrow grabs him by the mouth and starts to suck him. Pause, but that's what happens. So here we have this old man sucking Yamcha through his mouth. And then we have this infamous scene, which is even more gruesome in the manga, man. Toriyama really went hard on this.
Yes, he did. I wonder if Garo was thinking about the fact that Yamcha's wearing Goku's gi.
Yamcha was sucked and penetrated, but yes, similar gi.
Yeah.
And then Justin Sullivan says the androids reveal themselves, and they are revealed to be Colonel Sanders and the Michelin Man. That's why Torishima said, But I like their designs, but they're
Yeah,
not final
19th
boss.
design is clearly Chinese vampire inspired, which makes sense with him draining people's energy through his hands and stuff. So
yes, the thing that's interesting though is I don't hate their designs at all. I like their designs, but they're not final boss material. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Torishima was right about that for sure.
Yeah, I think he was right. Okay, Xavier says 1920 thought Yamcha was Goku because of his power. Well, I mean, we'll get there. We'll get there. Chapter 339. So very gruesome. Now they sense there's energy dropping, and it's like, now we got to go see. And that leads to Goku and them arriving. Poor Yamcha's damn near left for dead. Goku senses that he's alive. They got to get him a Senzu quick, or else he's going to die because he's bleeding out. And then this is where Piccolo realizes that they're artificial humans. And they're like, wait a minute, how did you know we were artificial humans? Like, how did you know we were going to be here? Because remember, in the original timeline, they just showed up. Like, it wasn't like...
it would be wild to think that, like, they know when there's, like, literally no possible way for them to know other than time travel. Like, that's...
Right.
That would be mind-blowing. It would, yeah.
And I don't think, as smart as Dr. Garo was, I don't think he ever discovered time travel like how Bulma did.
No.
It's kind of like how...
Mm-hmm. It would be something that it would be hard to even consider that as a possibility, even if you were a genius scientist, you know?
Well, that's the thing is Dragon Ball is a lot like Marvel. So I'll give you an example. In Dragon Ball, we've got all these really smart scientists. We got Dr. Brief. We got Bulma, his daughter. We've got Dr. Garo. We've got Dr. Mew or Raichi. We've got Dr. Willow. I'm using even the ones that aren't in the manga. We've got Toa and Mira, Dr. Orinsu. All these characters are very intelligent scientifically, but that doesn't mean they can all figure out time travel. And it kind of reminds me of how in Marvel, and this will really be clear to people when the Fantastic Four movie comes out later this year, is that in Marvel, you've got people like Kang the Conqueror, Doctor Doom, the Hulk, Iron Man.
Yeah.
You've got Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. They're
even
all
Spider-Man was like a really smart scientist in most of his iterations as well. Yeah.
Right, but they're different. They discover different things. Like Dr. Banner discovers how to harness gamma rays. That's like his specialty. But Dr. Banner didn't discover time travel. See what I'm saying? So the only one to discover time travel would be, in this universe, Bulma. Right. Besides the gods, yeah. So, okay. Hold on. Justin says, whoa, these guys steal energy by grabbing people. Sounds like these androids are some cyber sexual predator. Damn, bro. I guess. I don't know how to answer that. Air Dog says, Goku didn't find it odd that he never got sick. I don't think he even thought about it. That's always been my... We'll talk about that next time a bit more. That's more for like the next, that's a question for like next Mangalorian. So this is the part where they're trying to fight. Let's get out of here. There's too many innocent people. And then number 20, being a dick, just started blasting the place. And it's fucked up because literally Goku's like, there's too many innocent people here. And he's like, I don't care. And then just blast the place up. Like, look at this. And it's like, what an asshole, bro.
And he's doing it just by looking around, too. Like, he's using his eyes to just look
eye beam
and destroy things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an eye blast. Yeah. And then here comes Goku, and he punches his head, knocking his hat off, revealing his brain. Just freaky shit, but good shit. And he's like, I'm gonna smash the both of you. Like Goku's like, no, Goku wants to get in, bro.
Yeah, that goes to show you that despite the fact that Goku wanted to fight him, and he said all those things, to Bulma, he still didn't want to do that at the expense of people. Like, he really is just that confident in his ability to handle the situation, which, some consider overconfidence, but
it's the martial artist in him. That's what it
yeah.
is. So then they actually decide to leave, and we have chapter 340, Son Goku versus the Red Ribbon Army's Grudge, which is why I have the hat on. So this is where they land, right?
Yeah.
And now Yamcha is okay, right? He's okay, but he's not 100%, not yet. But he's going to be. And now they're trying to figure out, so they're going to follow along too. There goes Yamcha, there goes everybody else, and Bulma's left alone. So they're all going to come down, and at this point, 20's like, nope, we're not going to go any further. We stop right here. And then Piccolo notices this terrain is flat, but we're surrounded by large rocky mountains. They must be planning to hide amongst the rocks and fight from there if the situation calls for it. Pretty smart thinking on their part. That is smart because you can't sense their power. So Goku says, how do you know about us? And then 20's like, fine, I'll tell you. And then this is where the big reveal is. You see, Son Goku, you've been kept under surveillance for quite some time by means of a micro miniature insect-like spy drone, which is the little spy robot that's microscopic. It was present for your matches at Tenkaichi Budokai as well as your battles with Piccolo and Vegeta. That's right. Even after the fall of the Red Ribbon Army so many years ago, you have been the subject of continuous research. So this went all the way back to the 22nd tournament, which started right after Red Ribbon. Research conducted to discern how to best defeat you, Son Goku. What type of artificial human it would take to prevail. Now, I've talked about this in my Cell Explain video, but this wasn't just Dr. Gero. It was also his supercomputer. Like, he used the computer to help him figure all this out. It wasn't just one guy figuring it all out.
Right.
So, yeah. And then this is where he's like, that's right. Because of you, the Red Ribbon Army of Dream of World Conquest went up in smoke, and Dr. Gero was all that remained. And you speak as if you were this Dr. Gero. Don't be ridiculous. I'm number 20. Yeah, that's foreshadowing. Dr. Gero died a long time ago. Yeah, foreshadowing again, but not really. And this is where Goku asked, did you guys spy on planet Namek? Now, this is the part to Air Dog's question earlier. There was no need to follow you there. By then, we had a total grasp of your power and technique leading up to and including your fight with Vegeta. So after the fight with Vegeta, the spy robot didn't get any more data. So that answers Air Dog's question from earlier.
Let me ask you something. What do you think Toriyama was originally intending to do with 19 and 20 had Torishima never said anything about them not being the main? What do you think his plans were originally for these characters?
I don't know, man, because would they have had Gohan beat them? Like, I don't know.
See, I think 16 was always going to be a thing.
Okay.
I think 16 was always going to be a thing because this whole thing is very obviously Terminator inspired. And I think after Gero and 20 would have been defeated, I think 16 would have ended up being the focus. But he changed his mind and went with 17 and 18. I actually think that Toriyama already had 16 thought of, even whenever Torishima was criticizing him, about these two. He just didn't say anything to Torishima about it. I think he just took the advice and ran with it. Like, in my personal opinion, it makes a lot of sense that 16, whose character, like, as a character, 16 is themed around having to kill Goku despite not being a bad person, right? And I think that that's something that it's very, very similar to like modern Dragon Ball Super Broly, if you think about it. Like, Gero is like very similar to Paragus. Like, he would be there to manipulate 16 into fighting Goku, despite the fact that 16's not really a bad guy. And I think that was the original intention, and I just don't think Toriyama ever went through with it. But
shout out to Adam for pointing out Miles Bennett Dyson, bro. Yeah, I mean, the 16 thing, I wish we had more information on that.
yeah,
Like, I wish there was more questions asked to Toriyama about what his original plan was, not just with 19 and 20, but also with 17 and 18. Like, before Cell, would they have just dragged the fight on further? Like, would Goku and them have fought him on Kame Island? Like, there's just a lot of
the tension. I think the tension would have come from the fact that 16 is a good person who's being manipulated by Garo. I think that's where his mindset was originally at. Like I said, very similar to Dragon Ball Super Broly. It just didn't work out that way. That's my opinion.
Are you saying that 16 would have been the final boss in your view?
Yeah, I think the drama would have come from the fact that 16 he didn't like to hurt things, but he was programmed to kill Goku by Garo. I think that was the original intention, because that's a dramatic, that's a dramatic storytelling device, right?
And then here Garo says, any improvements made to your strength at this juncture would be sufficiently offset by your age, rendering further large-scale leaps of strength an impossibility. So the computer was so smart that it thought that by the time Goku hit the age he was when he fought Vegeta, that he would not get stronger. This is because the computer was programmed by a human, and the computer did not have any kind of true information about Saiyan biology, not knowing that Saiyans can get stronger in their 40s, 50s, etc. Unlike human men who usually start losing testosterone around 35, 40, 45, in the world of Dragon Ball, Saiyans don't work that way. So, yeah, they don't. Let's see what else we've got here as far as super chats go. Hold on. Okay, wait, Jared. And what's the old man did to Yamcha most certainly wasn't finger licking good. He's talking about the KFC thing again, bro.
Yeah.
Very sexual. Also, second form Cell Toriyama wanted him to be the main. Wrong. That is false.
Yeah.
You what you're doing is you're mixing the Torishima story with the androids to the second form Cell story. That is incorrect. Torishima told Toriyama that the old man and the fat guy and that the teenagers were not suited to be the main villains. What you're talking about is the fact that Torishima hated second form Cell and told Toriyama to hurry up and put him perfect. He was never intended to be.
Yeah, second form Cell was just Toriyama's favorite, not.
Yes. He was never intended to be the final boss. Yeah, he's mixing, and then now he says he's right.
No, you're mixing things up. You're not right.
You're mixing things up, bro. And I'm like literally telling you you're wrong. Oh, but I'm right. Okay. Well, when you go find the interview, bro. So what you're telling me is that you believe in your head that Toriyama would have never had Cell get perfect. He would just ended it with second form Cell. Think, bro. Think real quick, bro. Think, bro. Think. Tell me how that makes sense. Well, I'm not gonna have this guy get his final form. I'll just have him die at the second form and leave it there. Like, I'm not gonna argue with you, bro. I'm not arguing with you. You go back and you do your research and read the interview so you can then apologize and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, you were right." This guy said, "I bet Android 19 is Dan Schneider, bro. You're being real controversial here in disguise." And that he absorbs energy through fondling his victim's feet. That's kind of a deep cut right there, bro.
Yeah.
That's kind of a deep cut right there, bro. Like, that is kind of a deep cut. You know? Now we'll never know what question is left. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Garen says, retcon. Cell said he had Frieza cells and used move. What?
I don't know, man. Let's just move on.
Okay. I'm just going to explain this to you. The spy robot, this is not hard to figure out, guys, but I'll explain it. The spy robot got enough information from Goku that he didn't have to get any more information from Goku. But when Frieza showed up, the spy robot got Frieza's cells, and that's how Cell got Frieza's cells. That's explained in the series. Now, if you haven't seen the series in a long time, okay. But please do not use the word retcon when you're the one that doesn't remember. Don't say something is a retcon if you don't remember, or if you're misremembering it like Speed Demon did earlier. Or Speed Punch, not Speed Demon, Speed Punch, different guy. How did Trunks know about Garo? Did 17 and 18 explain?
That's the most likely scenario.
That sounds like it makes the most sense, yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like it makes the most sense, yeah. You know, it sounds like it. Okay, so this part here is that Goku says, you guys' research didn't include the most important thing. This fight is over because, of course, what happened to Goku on Namek. Not knowing about the Super Saiyan transformation will prove fatal for you. Super Saiyan? Then roar, he transformed. Wait a minute, what? Boom. And now they're all kind of shocked, and they sensed it. What a key. So this is what Super Saiyan Goku feels like up close? I want the two of you to stay out of this fight. After all, it seems I'm the one these guys are really after. And they're like, yes, indeed, you are.
Yep.
It seems you've powered up quite nicely. A curious technique. It far exceeds the figures that we had calculated for you. The computer was too smart for its own good.
Yeah, there's an iconic panel right there, the one underneath Goku right there.
That one?
Yeah, the one on the left there. That charge. Yeah. That's like a very iconic panel that's used a lot.
And was in the episode. I think it was episode 127 or 127 or 126. No, I think it was 127. I think. Doesn't matter. But now Garo thinks that even though he went Super Saiyan, it's probably still not going to be enough to beat them. It's still within manageable parameters as it stands now. Even number 19 alone can defeat you. Again, that's very.
Well, this is weakened Goku. Piccolo points out that
that's next.
He points out that Goku's short of breath even before the fight even starts. He pointed it out earlier in the manga.
Well, we're gonna get to that here in a minute. Yeah. Chapter 341. So Goku lunges in, and then we have Goku fighting 19. I think this is a really fun fight. I like it a little bit more in the anime, but I do like this version. Goku is going all out because he probably doesn't want to waste time. See, Air Dog says Goku goes all out due to his heart virus. I think
he doesn't really know that the virus is affecting him. He just knows that something's wrong.
Right. Yes. Yeah. He doesn't know it's the virus, but he knows that he doesn't feel 100%. So he's like, fuck it. Let me just finish this off quickly and worry about it later. You know? So he doesn't.
He knows he has the virus, but he doesn't really factor in that that's what's happening to him until he really figures it out, you know?
Yeah, and all of that's covered in the future. You got to be patient. All of that will be covered in future streams and chapters of the Dragon Ball manga because they do go into all that. At least I think they go into it. I'm pretty sure they do. This is iconic right here, bro. When he comes in with the flying headbutt and Goku just grabs him and then punts him, bro. He punted him like fucking the Super Bowl, bro. He straight up punted that man. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then here comes Goku going up there. They have this fight. I actually love these panels. This mid-air fight with Goku at 19. Goku still quick, still dodging him. If Goku was healthy, he would have smashed 19.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think a lot of people think that, yeah. And Tenshin Han is like, oh, wow, Goku's so strong. He's so different. And then Piccolo's like, yeah, but, you know, he's powered himself up far more than our data predicted. This shouldn't be possible. At this rate, 19's energy reserves will be depleted before he gets a chance to steal any, which is code for Goku's going to beat him.
Yeah.
But Piccolo already knows what's up. And then Tenshin Han is like, yeah, I never imagined him being that strong. And then here we have this part of the fight. I love this fight, bro. I love the speed. Just it's not long. It's not like one of the best fights, but it's fun to watch. And then this is where Piccolo says, Son Goku is rushing this fight for some reason. The battle has only just begun, and he's already expending nearly full power. And yet, the way he's fighting is so sloppy. Like, something is wrong. Like, Piccolo knows that something is wrong. He's much better than this. As a Super Saiyan, Goku's strength should be far greater than what we're seeing now. Tenshin Han's like, he's so great, and Piccolo's like, this ain't the same thing. Yamcha was saying earlier that he thinks they're able to drain a person's energy. Could that be why? Yeah, he grabbed my face with his hand, and when he did it, it felt like my ki was being sucked out of me before I could even tell what happened. So now they're figuring out everything. Yeah. Goku knocks 19 down. He goes down, but he's still good. And then they're over here saying, well, Goku's having a good time. But here you see Goku breathing hard. Why would Goku be breathing hard this early in the fight? And that's another key that Toriyama's telling us something is wrong. But Tenshin Han points out that artificial humans aren't going to feel fatigue, which is true. They don't get tired. Goku does. Kamehameha. And that's exactly what they
were waiting on that. Yeah.
They were waiting on it. And then 19 sucks Goku's blast. Remember when 7-3 was around and there was a time when almost every video I would say he got behind someone and sucked them?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
But it's like I wasn't.
You love saying that. You can tell when you say it. You love saying it. You can tell.
I do love saying it, but I wasn't at first. I wasn't saying it on purpose, like just to be nasty. It was more so like, oh, like yeah, like you know what I mean, like it just sounds funny, but it's true, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So now he absorbed the energy, and then Piccolo's like, don't use ki anymore, because they can sense it through their hands. Now, here's the question for you, Jordan. If 19 could not absorb ki, would this blast have killed him?
No, I don't think so. I think it probably would have hurt him, but I don't think it would have killed him.
I see that. Some people think it would have killed him. I'm not sure if I feel like that strongly about it.
No, because he's already huffing and puffing when he shoots the blast. So no, I don't think.
It's not full power Goku with a full power Kamehameha. And then Goku's still huffing and puffing like, oh, great. And he's sweating. Like, it really does feel like he has the flu. You know, it's like that kind of, like a fever. And they're like, wait, this is a problem. And then this is like, well, now number 19's maximum power is even bigger, but Goku's power is diminishing. And then he lunges in and we're done. So next time we get together, the Android Saga continues. Vegeta will reveal that he's been training and battle the androids. And then we may get some new androids too, but that's going to be volume 29 of the manga. So what do you think about this volume?
I loved it. It's awesome, especially the Trunks stuff. That's always I always enjoy that in this arc. I sent you something on Discord if you want to pull it up for people to see. It's essentially just like Wukong doing a future Trunks thing where he like catches the sword like King Cold. That way,
Let me see if I
can see it. They can actually see what I was talking about.
Let me see how I can show this because because
if you want to. But yeah, it's like there it is, verbatim.
Well, I have to be careful because there's images on my desktop that are spoilers for Daima. Now everyone's gonna pause it and look at every single. Someone's gonna rewind the stream and look at every single picture on my desktop until they find the spoiler. But
but every time I see the trunk scene, now I think of this. I didn't.
When he
I've
grabbed
always
the
thought it was
sword.
cool, but now I always think of this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love
awesome
it,
stream.
bro.
I had a great time. I appreciate you guys participating. Don't forget to support the channel, like the stream, and we'll be doing an episode of Super Magic Show this Friday, right?
I'll go into that in a minute. First of all, he says 19's the biggest sucker. Yeah, I guess that's true. He sucks Goku. And he sucks Vegeta at one point too, so he got a piece of both of them. I know some people who would love to suck both of them, but anyways, yes. So the plan now is Friday's a big episode of Daima, so we're probably going to be streaming shortly after the episode, probably in the early evening time, 5 or 6. So but it's not going to be a Mangalorian. It's going to be a Super Magic show. But I'll do another Super Magic show on Sunday, so you'll get 2 of them this weekend because of how big this week is going to be. So it's going to be a big week. Thanks everybody who checked us out. Wait, hold on. One more from Justin. Run, Goku, before Dandroid Schneider starts touching you. For those who don't know what he's talking about, just look up Dan Schneider Nickelodeon rumors on Google, and you'll see it. Yeah. So it'll be a big deal. It'll be a big deal this coming week. But again, thank y'all. We should be back with a Mangalorian next week. I'll let you know. I don't think I have any plans, but I had a doctor's appointment last week, but we'll figure all that out. So again, this week will be big. And Jordan, I had a good time, bro. The Android saga begins. The Android and Cell saga begins.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to the stuff about Cell. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah, and there's a lot of questions we got about the time travel stuff, but that's a heavy load. We got to wait until we actually get deeper in the Cell stuff to go into it.
Yeah. I hope you guys tune in to the show this Friday and also next Tuesday, and I appreciate you guys participating today. And like I said, don't forget to like the stream. So
yeah, and share out the Mangalorian. I'm out. Have a good one. See you soon. Take care.